So growing up, my parents have always told me that I should work for a big corporate when I graduate. When I did graduate, I went for an interview at this company called KPMG as a tax expert or tax agent at the time. And I bring the offer back home to my parents, and I said, there you go, I made it. And they're super happy. They say, well, congratulations, we're so proud of you. And then I went, well, I'm not going, because I don't see myself working in tax. Funnily, here I am 8 years later, actually working in a tax company called TaxFix. I mean, a tax tech, fintech, however you call it. It eventually turned into a very life and career-changing experience for me. But let's not kid. I was the troublemaker until now. So TaxFix, we're on the mission to help everybody in the walk of life to achieve financial well-being by offering a very simple tax filing services. So users don't need to have any tax knowledge. You can file your taxes in 30 minutes and get an average refund of 1,000 euros. And until today, we have helped more than 800,000 people to file taxes. And we generated more than 1 billion refund back to our users' bank account. Thank you. So let's see some show of hands. Who of you have filed your taxes already this year? You guys don't file taxes? All right, well, 1 billion refunds we got. And who of you have filed your taxes on time? Good job, guys. Or you don't know there is a deadline, maybe. Anyway, so you probably don't really react to that shift of deadline, but for us marketers at TaxFix, it was basically a beginning of a nightmare. Because let me just kind of illustrate how that planning looks like for us. So at TaxFix, you have high season and you have low season. High season is the first 6 months or 7 months of the year, and the low season is the second half. And the shift of the season basically means that whatever you're trying to do in the low season, which is improving the infrastructure, doing learning strategy, all those planning, the housekeeping work, that instead of having 5 months to do that, you only have 6 weeks. And to make the matter worse, we were looking at that when we heard about the deadline shift, like us sitting there, we're just like, okay, let's look at this. We have 3 markets running at the same time. Outside of Germany, there's Italy and France, and we're still figuring out product market fit. There are 3 people in the performance marketing team. We wanted to hire, and at that time, there was no TA support. And the whole strategy team for Germany was like a one-man show who was trying to do 15 jobs. So at the time, it was pretty crappy. And I thought about quitting, to be honest, 6 months ago, because I thought that would solve all the problem. But I'm so glad I didn't, because fast forward 6 months later, we achieved, well, not only the 1 billion euros refund, we eventually actually achieved all of our revenue and submission targets. And most importantly, we hired 4 people in a matter of 4 weeks, and 3 of them actually started yesterday. I would be selling you short if I just tell you what is the exact strategy that we went for, because in fact, strategy is a reflection of your mission and purpose. What is it that you want to do and how you're going to do it? And every company is different. I know you hate to hear that, but it's true. You cannot copy other companies' strategy. But what I can tell you today is the 5 key learnings that I have as a perspective of a team lead working at TaxFix, and how you can also apply that to your team and to your business, especially if you have a challenge that is similar to ours. So let's do this. The real reason why I felt uncomfortable when we had the season shift was because I had a holiday planned. And of course, I didn't expect that, right? Like, you don't really do that to go on a holiday for 2 weeks before a high season. You would, be full force into it. And I swear to God, I was not going to cancel this trip. It was the first trip ever that I decided I would switch off, not checking any emails or Slack messages. So I just went as planned. But when I got back, I didn't feel good. I was looking into all the numbers. I was also checking the run rates, talking to people, and looking at the performance. This looks quite crappy, and we're 3 weeks away from finishing the season. What are we going to do? And I looked into my calendar. There's this one-to-one meeting with our CGO, Alex, who's sitting right here. And I was like, okay, he's going to ask me a bunch of questions that I'm not going to have answers for. And we got on the call, and we literally spent 1 hour talking about my holiday. Literally my holiday. For 1 hour, he was asking me, tell me about the time when you got on a plane. What were you feeling? Did you try to check your email? What were you doing when you're on the beach? Did you try to, did you relax? Did you switch off? And I was like, man, I didn't expect this, but okay. So we spent 1 hour talking about my trip to Greece. And then when we hung up, I was thinking, if a CGO who's responsible for the revenue of the company can be so calm when we're underperforming, why should I, as a team lead, panic? And here goes my first learning. You need to have full trust in your people. And I can tell you it's easier to say than done, because when you're underperforming, there are lots of things that's going on in your mind, and you just want to get your hands dirty, but you can't. So because of that call, I started entering one-to-ones with my direct reports. Instead of going straight to the performance, I was asking how they are. I check on their mental health. Let's not forget that we're all working from home. It can be very insecure to work. And before I would go into the performance, I want to make sure they're fine. And once I make sure they're fine, I basically spend the last 5 to 10 minutes talking about the actual projects we're working on. And when I do that, I'm not saying, walk me through what you're working on. I simply ask them, how can I help? And when I do that, what I realize is you basically invite them to come to you with information and also for support, so you get all the insights you need as a team lead, and you know where you can tackle. And of course, when we're looking into the performance, we had a very interesting finding. Well, not so interesting, but we spent a lot of our marketing spend on 2 very key channels. And in the middle of the high season, we decided that something needs to change. We need to pivot. So we decided to add in a programmatic channel, which we actually didn't do before, and it was a risky move. And I actually underestimated the time that it would take to integrate that channel in-house, and we only have 3 weeks left, and we need to have results. And this is when we had to change the way we think, basically, which goes to my second point. If you calculate your risk, you can value speed over perfection. So instead of asking ourselves, how do you check the results or track the campaign performance directly on the interface, you simply say, what does success look like? Right? Like when you don't have enough time, you need to spend this money, what does success look like? So in our case, let's say you have 50K to spend in marketing. Would you actually spend the 50K into a channel that is already not working? Or would you take a little risk and spend on a new channel and at least have 2 very key outcomes, which is incremental or no incremental? If you do that kind of calculation in your head, it actually makes more sense to go for the new channel. And in our case, we did value speed, and we took about 4 days negotiating with the publisher to launching the campaigns. Eventually, the result was great, but that's not a point. The point is we decided collectively that we would value speed over perfection, and then that just basically enlarges your chance of succeeding. And when you do things like this, you also need to be aware of the resources that you have in-house. When you reprioritize something, you also need to drop something, which goes to my third point, which is you need to be willing to also drop your plans. And when I say that, it is also very logical, right? Because you don't have that much time to make everything work. However, it is more difficult than you think when you're in a high season, because you do want to make everything work. But you as a team lead need to set that stage for your team member that it is okay that we give up on some of our initiatives. So internally, we use this system called RISE scores. In case you don't know, I put it on the screen. R is reach, I is impact, confidence, and ease. Or you can use effort, but the calculation will look a little bit different. And because as a team, we use this system to decide what is it that we want to work on, it becomes very easy for us to decide if we should reprioritize or drop anything. And I think we're in the very lucky stage there because the team understands the importance of not putting too much emphasis on things that already not work. And if I can just add one more thing to the whole prioritization, it would be this. So throughout the whole last 2 years, I was always thinking the team needs to grow, but hiring takes time. So I keep on giving myself excuses of not hiring, like the future Wendy who has a lot of time can deal with it. But the truth is, you just don't have that much time, and hiring is part of your job. So then, when I came back from holidays, I made a promise to myself that no matter what happens, you're going to spend 15 minutes, 50% of your time on hiring, and this is not negotiable. And of course, thanks to our TA support, we're able to pull that off. So it goes to my fourth point. You should not put long-term planning aside, even if you don't think you have enough time. And well, in the end, we actually interviewed more than 200-300 candidates in a matter of 4 weeks. And as I said, we closed 4 hires. If you are interested in the story, you can talk to me afterwards, or our TA support is also here today with us. So you see, if you create that environment for your team, or if you have the right people, or both, you literally don't need to worry about anything, because with applying these simple rules or methods, you can take any type of debt strategy to life again. And I can say that because that's what we did this year. And if I also look into the strategy that we formed this year for 2021, it's pretty bad. And I can say that because I wrote the strategy, and it was bad. We didn't have any plan B or plan C or just crappy initiatives, lots of intangible measurements. We also didn't have a good structure when it comes to creatives or any process things. But we pulled it off. So I just want to remind you that if you do those 4 things next time, if you face a performance challenge, give trust to your people, value speed, and be versatile, and always be willing to prioritize long-term planning. And one last thing. When I was writing those sentences, I was also thinking there's a very interesting pattern about my life, and I want to share with you because you might be able to find that in yourself too. I went to America when I was 15 without speaking a word of English, and I went to a boarding school. I also became a team lead at TaxFix without having been a people manager before. And I'm also speaking to you here on stage, and I've never been on stage before. So I think the next time you are, doubting yourself, let's just stop all the self-doubt because you can really pull it off. So that's my 5th point. Thank you.